This podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Currently, you can get free delivery on all orders over £40 and 10% of all online orders by using our code of TakesThatChance10.
Christopher Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance! Brady down the left and Moy stayed onside. Here's Mounier! 2-0 Huddersfield Town on the opening day of the Premier League. 1-2 wicket Tunga. Here's Moy, right-footed. 1-0 Huddersfield Town. Lindelof misses his header. De Quattro's in. Round De Gea. 2-0 Huddersfield Town. 2-0 Huddersfield Town. Here's Sanka to turn it into the pass. Yes! And Tommins scored. Tommins has scored one of the most important goals of Huddersfield Town's history. De Quattro's forward. De Quattro's got the better. Yes! And Laurent De Quattro scores. Laurent De Quattro scores.
Computer, great, we're up and running. So, can Town capture all 3 points against Cardiff, ladies and gentlemen? Let's find out. Welcome to the warm-up, episode 23. Joining me, your host, Brady Frost, is someone else that we've managed to capture for another podcast. It's Tadcaster Albion manager Paul Quinn. How are you, Quinny?
I'm very well, thank you. Looking forward to this. Looking forward to sort of dissecting what's been going on. So, yeah, it should be good.
Well, I'm glad you're looking forward to it, man. the game, not having you on. Anyway,
no, the podcast, I'm looking forward to the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, so joining Quinny and I, you've heard of our section, Return to the Mac. Well, on this pod, we have the return of the Matt. Matt Shaw, how the devil are you?
I'm all right. Was that the thing that was supposed to surprise me?
No, mate.
Beforehand.
No. Mate, here it is now. So, Matt, there's been a lot of speculation as to why you've been away. So there's 3 theories that seem to come up. So I'm just going to ask you very quickly if you can confirm or deny the truth behind it.
Is this a true or false? True or false thing?
Okay. Well, this is just the speculation.
Truth or dare?
You know what the internet's like. So I just need you to confirm or deny if any of these are the reasons you've taken a little break. So one of the most popular theories is you took a break because the conch broke and you couldn't signal for Josh Koroma to come back from injury. Can you confirm or deny
that? I can deny that because the conch is here. There you go. Look. Sorry. There you go. The conch is there. It's still alive. Still all in one piece for now.
Okay. So lovely stuff. That's good to hear. Okay. So the second theory was you've secretly become a Leeds fan and have even bought yourself a Bielsa bucket to sit on when you're watching the Leeds games. Is that? Can you confirm or deny that?
I'm not even going to give that any substance, Brady.
There we go. And finally, I think this is the most popular one. You were amazed by my excellent hosting skills in your absence and you just feel a bit intimidated.
I don't know which is worse, the last one or this one, to be honest.
Anyway, Quinny's just like, what the hell is this? Right,
move
okay.
On, Brady.
So,
podcast
here. We'll move on. Anyway, I'll set the seat. So we are playing Cardiff Friday night live on Sky. They are now in the playoff places and sit 6th in the table. They're just a point and a place above Bournemouth, who do have a game in hand. But it'd be nice to be in the playoff places, wouldn't it, chaps? Since Mick McCarthy has taken charge, they've gone 10 games unbeaten. They are top of the form table in the league for the last 10 games. 7 wins in the last 8 games. They won 4-0 in midweek. And away from home, they've only lost 2 of their last 10. So on paper, appears a very tall order, but we did think that with another Welsh side previously, so maybe there is some hope. It's also Mick McCarthy's 1,000th game as manager. So a lovely little occasion. So it was a 3-0 defeat for Town away last time these two played. Matt, what did you think of the match? And I'm more interested to know what you've been thinking of Town recently.
Oh, God. What did I think of the match last time? I thought we were in absolute shambles, in truth, last time. I went on the second tier podcast a couple of weeks ago and floated a couple of opinions on there. Nothing too over the top, I don't think. But for me, end of November, start of December, I think Carlos Corberán's methods and systems seem to get worked out a little bit by other championship analysts. We spend 45% of the time down the left hand side, and people started doubling up on Toffolo and making it more difficult for us. And I think we did quite well during December. I do think we came up against some teams in really rotten form. Sheffield Wednesday were shocking at the time. Watford were just about to sack their manager. QPR were appalling at the time. I think the run favoured us. And I think what we've seen now is we've seen a manager kind of struggling to adapt a little bit. Yesterday against Birmingham, I know you guys did the podcast, but against Birmingham, we saw a coach try something different. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't great to watch, but it was different. And I was quite enthused by him trying different things, because I think my main criticism of Carlos has been that he's been quite belligerent in terms of his principles and trying to get his ideals across. And we've done the same thing every game, and it's not worked. So we saw something different last night. So that is something to cling on to for me. So hopefully we can see Carlos becoming a little bit more flexible. And if he does that, I'm sure we'll start to get more results.
Yeah, here's hoping, mate. Quinny, what about yourself and previous game in just town? I know you've been on a bit recently, but you said you were eager for this podcast. So what have you got to say?
Yeah, I think the one thing with Cardiff is look at the Cardiff game when we played them at their place, and I think we absolutely dominated the ball, dominated possession. But you also look at last night's game. They played Derby last night. They won 4-0. I think they only had something like 30% possession last night at Cardiff. They were without the ball for a lot of time. So they're going to be happy for us to have it, and be disciplined and be, diligent with how they go about things. And I think that's sometimes problematic for us. I think when teams sit in and they're happy for that to happen, I think that causes us a bit of a headache at the moment. I think when teams come out a little bit and we've got that space to go in behind, I think it opens up more opportunities for us. But yeah, I think there's no two ways about it. Tuesday's game was a difficult watch, wasn't it? I think it was certainly first half. It was, it just looked like two teams that were really scared to have the ball, that looked fearful, that were nervous. It looked like a dogfight, which it was, wasn't it, for the majority of it. So, but as you said, going into the Swansea game, you wouldn't have banked on us pulling out a result like that. So, who knows? Who knows? This is, like we've said it a few times, this is Huddersfield Town we're talking about, isn't it? So to predict any football game is difficult. To predict a Huddersfield Town game at the moment is even more difficult. But yeah, we just need that positivity in terms of hoping that we can get something against Cardiff, which we can undoubtedly. We've shown that in spells, but it's going to be another tough prospect.
No, definitely. And I think I kind of managed to get a chance to look at the previous game. It's a 3-0 win for them, but the first two goals, I mean, arguably you could say all three goals were mistakes from us, not from Cardiff playing particularly well. The one that immediately springs to mind was Naby Sarr getting caught, and then obviously the game's gone at 2-0, but then, Edmonds Green get turned by Robert Glatzel and then it's free. So, I mean, again, we know Town can make mistakes. We saw that with Birmingham, but, I agree with Matt, we did see a change from Carlos. I said this on the podcast yesterday, but I thought it was quite interesting that we almost seemed to let them have the ball at times. We'd just get rid of it and see what they could do. Maybe safety first, absolutely. So maybe we'll have something different. But we'll kind of come on to the game of the key players. Who have you got for key player, Matt, for Cardiff?
I've done a little bit on Cardiff. I've had a look at them in general, because Cardiff were a team that I predict at the start of the season, predicted them to be up in the playoffs, and I'm very sort of pleased for them, I guess, in a way that they've come on strong, because they've got the players and the squad in which to do that. They've got some good players there. Kiefer Moore's a player that I've been a huge fan of. I think roll it back 12 months ago. I think we're on our podcast, and I was like, Danny Cowley would adore Kiefer Moore up front for Huddersfield Town. He would be absolutely perfect, and I think he'd even be perfect now. Just watching him play for Cardiff for Carlos Corberán. He's such. I was going to call him a weapon, but that sounds a bit harsh because of the terminology. But in football terms, he is he's a big, powerful unit up front. He's not slow either. He's got a turn of pace. His touch is good. He's a very smart player. He knows how to lean in, back in, cause all sorts of problems, and he is going to be a handful, whichever way we look at it. In terms of Cardiff as well, I think what's important to look at is how good they are at set pieces. It's worrying how good they are. 22 goals this season from set pieces. Just to put that into context as well. To put that in a form of context, Reading are the second with 13. And I think a lot of people would look at Huddersfield and say, Huddersfield aren't really that good at set pieces, but we're there in eighth. We're with 8, sorry. So we're 5 short of Reading, who are in second, but Cardiff are 9 in front of second place Reading. And that shows you how good they are at set pieces. And as Quinny says as well, in terms of passing, 72% of their passes are short. So they're not a complete who-fit outfit, if you like. But they're very good at mixing and matching. They're full of energy, full of pressing, and they know when to sit in, when to pick teams off. And they've got that fulcrum up front in Kiefer Moore, who's just an absolute menace. And then you even throw in like the likes of Will Vaulks, Harry Wilson, and you can see why they're moving up the table. Town have conceded 12 goals from set pieces this season, third most in the league. So when you put the team that's scoring the most and the team that's third worst at defending set pieces, you can kind of see already where Huddersfield really need to be on their game, if you like. So I think in many ways, prevention might be better than having to deal with it. So the ideal really is not to get in too tight, maybe with Cardiff. Don't give anything silly away. Try not to give away the corners, set pieces, etc. And kind of run it from there. But Cardiff have conceded 60% of their goals in open play. 69% of Towns have come from open play. So they've only conceded twice on the counter. So maybe Town might need to have to probe patiently and wait for Cardiff to come out of that shape rather than trying to force things like we were guilty of doing early in the season. But from looking at that, there are ways which Town can hurt Cardiff, but there's a very, very obvious way in which Cardiff will probably hurt us.
No, great. Back on the pod with some quite the insight. That's good to hear, mate. Also, I am a big fan of Kiefer Moore as well. There's a Wigan fan I follow on Twitter. When we spoke to him last season, they sold him and Jamal Lowe for 2.1 million. And obviously, I think they've both got like 20 goals between them this season. So it just shows you. Quinny, what about yourself? Who's a key man for Cardiff for you?
I think if you look at sort of creation and assists and that type of thing, I think you'd perhaps look at Harry Wilson in terms of his creation and the things he does for the team. I think that's something that I'd be looking at in terms of stopping that. I think 9 assists, something like that in that region. So yeah, I think that'd be a player we'd be looking after. But again, you look at the squad and you just think that the experience in there, and it's another strong championship squad, isn't it? I know we've talked about Kiefer Moore already, and then you look at Sean Morrison and other players of that ilk in there. You've got someone like Smithers as well with the experience he's got. It's a really experienced side, and with somebody like Mick McCarthy at the helm as well. We've alluded to it already. 1,000 games as manager, that's massive. That is absolutely massive. When you think about all the success he's had, particularly in the championship, and the way he sets his teams up and the way he is as a manager, it's going to be one thing. It's going to be an extremely physical, tough afternoon. But I think if we've just got to, it's difficult, but we've got to move that ball as quickly as we possibly can. I think sometimes on Tuesday, for me watching it, it was quite predictable where the ball was going to go and the patterns of play. And I just think we need that bit more of a dynamic approach to the game when we get into the final third, particularly in the game. I think that's when we've been at our strongest this season, where we've taken the game by the scruff of the neck in the early stages, and really dominate, as my dog's scratching its neck in the background. I think that's where we've been at our best, when we've got out of the traps and we've been really forward thinking, and we've got runners beyond, and we've looked a real threat. The missing ingredients has been in that first 20 minutes is we haven't been able to capitalise, have we, and put teams to bed. That's been the big problem for us, I think. Tuesday night wasn't like that at all. I think it was a really as I said before, I think it was a really scrappy first 45 minutes. But if we can get on the front foot and be really positive, and I think there needs to be a couple of changes. Whether that'll happen or not, I think it will, because I think Cardiff will probably come and maybe play 4-4-2, and that naturally means that we play that extra defender because he likes to have +1 at the back, and so I think there will be a change if that's the system that Cardiff go for. But we'll see.
No, I think you're spot on, mate. Yeah, you both touched on a player I've picked, actually, in terms of set pieces, and, you naturally named him, Quinny, but I've gone for Sean Morrison. I picked him last time, but I couldn't not really pick him because since McCarthy's come in, he's scored quite a few goals from set pieces, and we have seen, I mean, we conceded the goal from a set piece against Birmingham. I agree with Matt. It is a real cause for concern for me. And I think Sean Morrison might have a bit of joy against our defence. You know, we've looked quite weak. I think particularly something when I was having a look at stats, I also do stats, Matt, was Cardiff of the most, in terms of times in the games when they've scored the most, it's the last 15 minutes. So depending on how the game goes, and we'll come on to our predictions, you know, that's something Town really need to watch out for, because if we are in this game, you know, we can't let it slip away like we have so many times, especially if it's in the last 10, 15 minutes. So we will see. But yeah, we kind of know all about Cardiff's threats, but key players for Town that you think will be crucial if we are to get something positive for this game. I'll come back to you, Matt, again. Doing a nice little rotation.
It's defence, isn't it? Naby Sarr. It's you know, when you've got a giant up front in Kiefer Moore, you've got your giant at the back that needs to keep him quiet. I do think Stearman, though, will be the one who potentially looks after him a bit more, but Naby Sarr is going to be really key on set pieces. You look at the goal we conceded against Birmingham, and it's such a horrible goal on so many levels. You know, it comes to the near post. Fraser Campbell gets under it, but even then, Naby Sarr stood marking nobody, blocking Schofield, which then forces Schofield behind the line, and Vallejo Bayako lets Jutkovic get in front of him, and it's such a mess. And that is really where Huddersfield have to be at their best. And to be honest, where Naby Sarr's at his best is when he plays as that, he goes zonal rather than on the man. So Naby Sarr zonally in the area, you know, in key points, you know, 6 foot, 6'5", 6'6", he's huge. He's going to be such an important player for us. So Richard Stearman, in the sense that he will probably look after Kiefer Moore, and it's a tough task for Stearman, is that, but he's experienced. He can push him wide. He can do all sorts. But Naby Sarr, for me, when the ball comes in the box, it's got to stick to his head like a magnet, and he's going to be the key man for me. If, like I always say, if Naby plays well, we usually do okay. If he has a stinker, we get absolutely battered.
No, that's great. And I'm just going to jump in, Quinny, because I actually picked Stearman, because I thought, you know, obviously came in for Birmingham after a bit of a layoff. I thought he you know, set piece aside, I thought he looked a bit better, you know, as a defence, slightly better as a defence. I think, you know, Keogh, you know, he's not played for a while. Obviously, he was in League One, and I think he's found it a bit tough. So yeah, I've gone for a centre back as well, because I think Stearman, we kind of need his discipline. What was really interesting for me while he was out was I didn't realise how much the young players talk about his influence. They were saying, you know, he's great and he helps me with the professionalism and stuff like that, and that really took me by surprise. And I think we've talked about it recently as a whole, but this team seems to lack leaders, especially when you've got like Hogg out and people like that. So I think his leadership will be key as well. So yeah, we've both gone for defenders. Quinny, are you going to go for a defender as well?
I'll probably mix it up a little bit and probably go for one of the forward-thinking players. I think you're right. I think you both make valid points regarding those two. But on the other side of it, the creativity I think needs to be better on Saturday for us to have any chance of getting anything from the game. So I've probably pinpointed him before, but I think when Bakuna makes things happen, when he makes things tick and is getting on the ball and being positive, I think we do look a dangerous outfit. And I think if he can pick up those pockets of space and be really positive in his play, then I think, you know, when he's doing well in those areas, I think we do look more creative. I would have picked one of the fullbacks, but I think he's pivotal on Saturday to creating chances, linking the way we play as well, from, you know, obviously with a build-up play, linking that. And I thought at times on Tuesday actually was interesting. I thought Schofield took a lot more longer goal kicks than normal. I don't know if you noticed that. I don't know if that was a noticeable thing that was highlighted after Saturday's game, but there was more occasions where Sarr and Stearman just shoved up and he hit the ball long, and we tried to win first and second contact. And that was interesting, that whether that's been something that's been spoke about between games, because that's not usually been a feature, I don't think. I think we've predominantly looked to play from goal kicks. So whether that's something we've talked about internally, just saying, listen, at times in the game, which I feel at any level, you've got to have that ability to be adaptable and mix it up a little bit and have that game intelligence and game management, where sometimes, you know what, yeah, we have got this style of play, but, you know, at 42 minutes in a game away from home, when even if you're 1-0 down, you don't want to give anything else away. If it's 1-1 or you're 1-0 up, shut up shop and we hit it a little bit longer and we just play percentages. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Whether that's an old-fashioned way of thinking, for me, it's not. I think football's never changed. It's always been 11v11, 2 goals. and managing time. And I think good sides do that. And whether that was just a bit more game intelligence from us on Tuesday, I don't know. But I think that was an interesting, noticeable difference. So it'll be interesting to see if that's a common feature again on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys. This feels more like the kind of live pod, but I thought that was quite interesting that we were booting long, like you say, Quinny. But to me, it kind of seemed like that was more suited for Sonogo. I know he's not fit yet, but I feel like if we're going to do that, we do probably need to have one of our big strikers up front. I don't know what you feel free to jump in, either of you. Maybe Matt. I don't know.
It's percentage football, though, isn't it, Brady? This is the thing that. What we're saying, there was a comment I picked up from Carlos pre-Birmingham, which I've made a note of here, which he said prior to the Birmingham game, he said it's very necessary from now until the end of the season to have a good dynamic playing at home. We want to change the dynamic when we are playing away. And I took that and I thought, do you know what? He's going to start being a bit more solid. And I'm not going to disparage the previous manager because I thought it was pretty decent and I wouldn't have obviously made the change. But it was quite a Cowley performance almost from Carlos Corberán. And in case it just felt like a must-not-lose game. And we went out there and we played safe. And the idea really was to get the ball as far away from the defence as possible. And, we've got an issue with Cardiff because they've got Sean Morrison and Aidan Flint. Aidan Flint's absolutely massive as well at the back, 6'7", So going down their throat is not a good idea, but looking at the system, they look like they play a kind of 3-4-2-1 at the minute. So hitting the ball wide and maybe challenging wide from long goal kicks is probably the way forward there. And maybe, you're looking at your second balls, and that's where Town really need to pick things up, I think, in terms of the second ball. But if we continue to just put it straight down the throats of, the likes of Kiefer Moore, Flint and Morrison, it's not going to end well. But if we go wide with those long goal kicks, then potentially we could get the second ball.
I think it's in every part of the pitch. So I think you look at when the ball's out wide and we've got the opportunity to put the ball in the box. I think the more times you have those penalty box entries and you ask the questions, that it's not brain surgery, is it? The more time you ask the questions, the higher the probability is that you're going to get opportunities and chances. And I think when we do, particularly from set pieces like free kicks, where we've got the opportunity to get Sarr in the box, and because we have got some big boys in the team now, especially with Sonogo coming into the squad. You think we can be a threat. And the league is what it is. I think we spoke about this a few weeks ago, didn't we, Brady, in terms of like when we were trying to recruit a number 9, what that number 9 would look like in terms of the profile. And I think Sonogo fits the profile and a lot of it, that what we need that physicality. Because that's just the league we're in. And, whether people agree or disagree with that, it is what it is. And we've, when any team that's been successful, I think, in the Championship has had that player that has got that ability to, be aggressive, hold up, be physical, give a platform for your side to progress up the field, be strong at set pieces. I think all those things are really important. And I do think we have got the players to do that. I just think now the style of play maybe, and obviously the personnel, like you said, Matt, needs to now knit together at the right times. But I think we're moved in the right direction with that type of player that we've recruited, definitely.
No, and interesting, before he joined Town, I think Stephen Chicken said he had a similar goals per game ratio to Steve Mounier, who me and Matt were a big fan of, and we're sad to see him go. So he is a bit similar, but we'll see how we get on. But it's the time. It is return to the Mac time. I'm going to go to Matt first because it's, as I said, it's return of the Matt. So return of the Matt, return of your Mac choice, please.
So. Bless him, but Ryan Schofield looks mentally tired to me at the minute. And for me, I know Quinny will be able to answer, go into this a bit more detail. But for me, the key to bringing young players through, in my opinion, is knowing when to drop them in and then pull them out at the same time. I think sometimes if you leave a player in too long, it can damage him long term. Whereas if you just drop them in and out at the right times, it can really sort of build their levels. And I think it might be time to. I like Ryan a lot. I think there's a lot of potential there. He's got a really good frame. His shot stopping's great. He's got a good spring, but mentally with the high ball, I was a 5'10" goalkeeper. I don't think I've told anyone that before, guys. But as a 5'10" goalkeeper with an arse like an anchor, that high ball into the box is absolute kryptonite to someone like me. So I feel like I can spot a nervous goalkeeper with a high ball quite far off, and Ryan Schofield, to me, the time he went with it with his feet Jutkovic. You know, he let the bump affect him too much, and then he's gone with his feet. You know, you don't want a goalkeeper trying to side foot clearance a high ball into the box. For me, those are telltale signs of maybe a slight mental issue at the minute. But it's not a bashing of Ryan Schofield, because he's got a lot of potential. And I think Ryan will be a decent goalkeeper. But I just feel like it's time just to park him for a couple of weeks, let him work on a few things maybe in the B team. So the person that I would come in would be somebody who could maybe dominate the area a bit more, be vocal at the back, especially against somebody like Cardiff. Communication needs to be really key, especially from these set pieces. And the person I would bring back for this would be Nico Vassen.
You stole my thunder.
Yes.
You stole my thunder.
I've got a second goalkeeper.
I hope he's not building up to Nico here.
He did look a bit worried. I thought,
what? Nico.
I'll tell you what, I've actually got Steve Francis. I've got Steve Francis as a backup as well, so we can share between Nico and... But it's just that type of goalkeeper, 6'3", you know, can come and claim the ball, vocally decent, and unlucky.
The only reason I picked Nico was because whenever he was at town, whatever year, I think it was one of the years when I had a season ticket when I was a kid and literally didn't miss a game and like went all over the country. And I think I was only about 11 as well. I don't think you get away with it now. But literally, you know, when you can remember a player's name that you used to sing all the time. And I know it was just simple, but you just used to say Nico again and again and again. Yeah. And I just thought goalkeeper, and I thought straight away. And I did my normal Brady Wikipedia stop thing, and that didn't fulfill me today. But yeah, I think on Ryan, on a serious note on Ryan, I think he's 21 years old, and you think about a goalkeeper that is extremely young, and the exposure to the Championship and everything he's had this season and the ups and downs and everything, I think he will be. I think he's going to be a fantastic goalkeeper, and I think the experience he's getting is brilliant. Whether he needs to have, and I agree with you, you've got to, from my experience of managing young players, you've got to recognise the signs of perhaps when they just need to dip in and dip out. And sometimes a player learns more from coming out of the side. I know this sounds a bit bizarre, but coming out of the team and just having a breather and sitting back and looking at things and reflecting and just watching the game again, and then being able to go back into it. And that reflection and that little bit of a pause is really, really important to a player's development, I believe. Whether Ryan's at that point at the moment, only Carlos and Paul Clements will know in terms of the work they do with him. They're the people that know whether that's the right thing to do. But I can see why people would be thinking that. But I certainly wouldn't be pinpointing Schofield out as somebody who's caused us major issues in the games we've played. I think there's a lot of contributing factors, and you know, people may put an argument together that he's one of them.
No, I agree with that, Quinn. It's not a Ryan Schofield bashing thing. It's just one of those where he's making decisions which haven't cost us, that you kind of think, I think maybe Ryan just needs to. For me, it just feels like...
You could say that about Naby, couldn't you? You know,
yeah, you could.
People would point to him and say, well, he's made a couple of errors when they're building up and they've cost goals. But then you could say that about maybe Campbell, chances they've missed. And I think there's contributing factors to where a team is at. And I believe that everybody will have that, and I'm sure they will have that collective responsibility. And but I get the case for it. I get the case for why that would be necessary. But I think you've hit the nail on the head, Matt. I think he's going to be a great goalkeeper because he's got a lot of good attributes.
Yeah, he does. It's just sometimes you think, for me personally as well, and my experience is nowhere near Ryan Schofield's for a start, but there was occasion where I was 21 and I was playing West Riding Premier League, which obviously isn't anywhere near Huddersfield Town standard. But I flitted between the first team for a little bit and the B team, and for me the B team was too low a standard, but the first team was 50-50 whether I was ready at that age. And I used to make mistakes because I would feel the pressure a little bit more, and that high ball was the killer, you know, when you've got big strong men coming at you and when you're not as big yourself. And what I did was I would then go into the B team, and maybe a couple of things that maybe I wasn't doing, I would try. And in really sort of, for me, goalkeeping is kind of whereby you have to work on what you can and what you can't do, and then stick to your strengths. And B team football and second team football really taught me what I can go for, what I can't go for, what I need to bring someone back from. And and you spot situations whereby you're going to struggle, and then you get help for it from one of your centre backs. Whereas in the first team, it was kind of I could feel it on my shoulders a little bit, and maybe you don't quite dare speak. And obviously, me and Ryan Schofield obviously aren't the same kind of people or anything. But I just see little bits maybe where he would maybe benefit from it, and he would be better in the long run from it as well. Like I say, I think Ryan's going to be great. I think Ryan is a good goalkeeper, and I think he's going to be a very good goalkeeper. I just think the timing might be right just to give him a little breather and then put him back in 3 or 4 weeks.
I think there's a trust element as well with the goalkeeper, particularly if you're a centre half or a full back, and with the way we play, going back to them, are you confident playing back to your goalkeeper? Do you feel they're going to be able to deal with it? Are you confident with them coming for high crosses? Because if you are, then you can maybe step up another couple of yards and leave him that space to come and collect it. If you're not, then even subconsciously you start dropping off and thinking, I need to protect him a little bit. So we all know it's such a crucial, important position. But they will be able to pick up that vibe, whether people are, whether he's in the right state of mind, and I think keepers are very resilient. I think they're a beast on their own, really. They're often training separately at times and doing their own things, goalkeeper union. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that sort of progresses over the next few weeks.
No, interesting. That's a good point. I think I agree with you, Matt. We'll come on to lineups in a sec, but I took Schofield out because I think, well, it's the cliche, but obviously when you make mistakes as a goalkeeper, people are going to notice it more than as a winger if you fluff your chance or whatever. And it's kind of, we're conceding so many goals at the moment, and I don't think Schofield's, he's not at fault for every single goal, but it's when you've got a terrible defence and you've got a young goalkeeper, it's an awful combination. And I think you hit the nail on the head there in terms of, maybe you should go to the B team, maybe you can try some things out because, in fact, the thing is, none of us think Schofield is terrible or going to be, terrible goalkeeper. He's got a lot of promise. And I think, back to that Watford game where we won, he was the best player, I thought. Fantastic shot stopping.
Honestly, Brady, there's nothing better than a Huddersfield lad who supports Huddersfield, playing for Huddersfield and doing well. Honestly, there's nothing better.
Absolutely. Definitely. Well, I just wanted to clarify that out because people think I've got something against Schofield. I nearly
Goalkeepers Union. Is it not Gingers Union as well as Goalkeepers Union, Brady?
I don't think he's ginger, mate. I don't know. Maybe we should ask. Chicken. Ask him if he's ginger. Well, I had picked a keeper, but I'm going to change my mind last minute because I don't think I'm going to beat the options. So I'm going to go for one that's a bit of a dud because I think I'll lose the poll. But I think he would improve this side. Defender. Very, very disappointed with how his time ended at the club. He was one of the Danish free from the Sievert relegation. I've gone for Zanka because I did like him. I think he did offer something. A bit of a bad start, but then I think him and Schindler kind of worked well together. And he obviously had that back heel assist for Tom Ince and that important goal, and he bought everyone a pint. So, but I do think he could add to this team. I think he'd be, again, one of them where I would have liked to have seen him in the Championship because I imagine he probably would have been a kind of top 6 player in the Championship. But we'll see.
I changed mine then.
If you want to, mate, go on then.
I'm gonna go for Aaron Moy. And that's a recent one, but I'm going to say Aaron Moy back.
That's like a top trump, is that? Isn't it? That's. Where are they?
I'm just looking at my team and thinking midfield's looking a bit light. I think we could do with an Aaron Moy in the team.
I told Matt he could only come back if he didn't pick Aaron Moy, and you've just beaten him to it.
It's like my favourite player of all time. It's like Quinny's going through his top trump, town top trumps.
Love it. Anyway, so before we go on to You're the Coach, we caught up with the Cardiff fan. I spoke to Tom Taylor. He was on the podcast last time, and he was in a buoyant mood, as you'd expect, thanks to Mick McCarthy. And here's what he had to say. Cool, it's recording. So yeah, I'm joined online now by Cardiff fan Tom Taylor. Tom, how you doing?
I'm doing very good, thank you.
Good to hear. Thanks for coming back on as well, mate. So obviously we've got the match on Friday, live on Sky. How are you feeling about it? Because, from a Huddersfield perspective, you guys are unbeaten in 10. Mick McCarthy's come in, completely transformed it. And it's a bit of a scary game for us, really. I mean, Can you tell us a little bit about what's happened since he's come in and about the game?
To be honest, I think the last 10 games has just been completely dreamland. When it was kind of announced that Mick was coming in, the general consensus with City fans online was very much, oh, really? Because, you look at a few of his last few jobs and kind of associate it with similar football that Harris played. And we thought, okay, he's coming in probably just short term, get him in, he's experienced, he knows the league, keep us up, and, we'll see where we are at the end of the season. I don't think anyone expected for what came next to happen. And yeah, it's been unbelievable for the first time in quite a while, probably since last year's playoff push. It's been genuinely, I'm actually looking forward to games now rather than dreading them like most of the season. But yeah, it's been a turnaround. It's been crazy.
Oh, it's nice to hear someone who's not dreading games. So it's not the same for us, mate. So what has he done really that's made the change in this transformation? Like you say, I mean, things were kind of a bit tricky with Neil Harris. Obviously, lost the job. But what's Mick done for this massive turnaround?
I think the change of formation has helped. Going to 3 at the back. The first time we did it, I wasn't completely sold on paper. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And we thought Aidan Flint and Sean Morrison are fairly similar players. And I thought a back 3 of Flint, Morrison and Curtis Nelson, I thought was bold, but it's paid off so well. I think having Perry NG come in has really helped. He's such a good player and a steal as well. Only I think it was 250k we paid for him, which is looking to be great. And he's really got the attack going as well. I think one of the problems with Harris was, I said it all along, I wasn't 100% sure that he knew his best team. Whereas with McCarthy, he knows it, and he's managed to get Josh Murphy playing to the best form that I knew he had the ability to. Shea Ojo has looked so much better since he's come in, and Kiefer Moore, he was good before, but now he's just gone up to another level, and he sort of found that right balance within the team that's got us firing.
No, it's great. I can tell it's all good news. I mean, so like I say, obviously you won. We're chatting to yourself after you've just won 4-0 against Derby, and you now are in the playoff places. Do you think that the playoffs are possible, or is it still let's not get carried away?
I'm trying not to get carried away, and I'm trying not to get too disappointed if we don't make it. Like after we drew with Middlesbrough, and we fell out of the places, I was a bit, oh dear, here we go. But then I had to kind of think, come on. Literally when he came in, my thought process was I'd be happy if we stay up, and now we're looking ahead at potentially the playoffs. So if we keep up a really impressive run of form, then I don't see why not. But optimistically looking, yeah, I'd like to think so. I'd like to hope so.
Oh mate, I'm getting jealous. I've got to be honest. So anyway, we'll put me, in even further misery. We'll talk about the game earlier in the season. It was obviously at Cardiff, and you won 3-0. I know it's going a while back, and this season it seems to be like a game every couple of days. But what did you kind of think of Huddersfield really, and what did you think of the game?
The game surprised me. I went in fully expecting a draw, because that was the kind of it was the football we played under Harris, essentially. And that game reminds me more now of a McCarthy game than it would a Harris game, where we just turned up for 90 minutes instead of what was the standard, just kick it about for 60 and then get the equaliser later on. But yeah, it was one of the few games under Harris, along with Luton and Barnsley at home, where I was genuinely really quite impressed, which was kind of like under Harris this season, not last year. It was one of the games this season where I was actually quite impressed, and yeah, it was kind of weird. It was kind of a weird one. I just feel surprised. I didn't think they were awful. Probably as good as you could have been in a 3-0 loss, as weird as that might sound. But yeah, it was unexpected. I'll say that.
Well, it was very, very expected for us, but again, we're just downbeat at the moment because we're in terrible form. We'll come on to the game on Friday. I mean, what are you expecting from it? I'll ask for your score prediction in a minute, but how do you expect the game to go? Because obviously, looking at your previous games, particularly last night, you don't really seem to be you seem to be happy to give up possession. Do you think it'll be similar when you're playing away on Friday?
I'd like to think so. We won't be with Joe Bennett, which is a big shame. He got injured last night and it looks quite serious as well. Quite a bad leg injury by the looks of things. But I'm more than confident that Joel Bagan will be able to come in. He's still young, he's still learning, but what we've seen so far, he looks really good. So I think it'll probably be quite tough. It's always a bit tougher going away. Even just psychologically, when you're at home, you can have the stadium is, especially with Cardiff now, since McCarthy's come in, Cardiff City Stadium's turned into a little bit of a fortress. So I'm always a little bit more kind of wary about going away, but having with the away games under McCarthy, which I thought we might potentially slip up in, like Luton and especially Bournemouth, we went in, we played the same kind of just conceding a bit of possession, but still getting away with an okay result. So I'm slightly optimistic, but still have that little nagging doubt in the back of my mind that's always there whenever Cardiff play.
Yeah, I don't think that ever goes away, mate, even if you were top of the league. So yeah, I suppose, well, final question is what are you expecting from the game and your score prediction, really, mate, to finish off?
Hopefully we'll see Harry Wilson play. It seems a little bit of a discredit to say that, considering Leandro Bacuna surprisingly played really well last night and got 2 really good goals. He took first one he took very well in his second was quality. But we'll get more of the starters back in, so I think we'll probably see a kind of game where we'll be happy to concede a bit of possession, but I think ultimately, if we're defensively sound and everyone up top stays in the form that they have been, I think it could be a good night for us, hopefully. Yeah,
so go on then. What's your score prediction?
I'm going to go 2-0 Cardiff.
Oh, nice. I've gone for 3-1 for you guys over the optimist, but we will see. But no, that's great. That's great, Tom. Thanks for coming on, and best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Cheers.
Right, okay, so we heard from Tom. Now we're going to hear from us. Matt, I can't do the "you're the coach" line, so I've been going with the thing of Carlos Corberán is no longer in the dugout. Instead, Mr. Matt Shaw is in the dugout. Former goalkeeper, in the local area, is now the manager of Huddersfield Town. How are you lining up, Mr. Shaw, in your first game in charge?
I don't think that would go down well in Huddersfield. But yeah, so Carlos's pragmatism. So this is more how I would line up rather than how I think he will line up. I think the way Carlos has gone, being more pragmatic, I think in a relegation run is probably the right way to go. I agree with Quinny. Sometimes it's just better to get the ball into better areas than hold it in dangerous areas for yourself, especially when you need points. And against Cardiff, we're desperate for a point really. It's going to be tough. And I'm going to do something which is very much out of the Tony Pulis handbook. Rafa Benitez, and although me and a mate do refer to Rafa Benitez as the Spanish Pulis. I think he often gets a strange reputation for playing glorious football, Rafa, but we'll move on from him. So from that, I'm going to actually pick a back four, which is very much tailored towards balls into the box and making clearances. And I did provide some stats. Hang on, Brady.
Oh, lovely.
So what I've gone for, to defend against Cardiff, I think you need height, you need strength, you need energy. And I know Carlos has ruled Hoggy out, but if Hog's anywhere near fit, he goes onto the pitch for me as soon as possible, because we desperately need him and miss him through this running. So to defend the high ball and to stop runners in from behind, which are essentially the two main things which are catching us out at the minute, I would go for a narrow back four. So what I would refer to as a very narrow back four. By playing a narrow back four, it just closes off the space between, for the likes of Wilson and Shea Ojo to get in. And I'm going to make a change at fullback as well. So left back is going to be a surprise. So I like Romani Edmonds-Green at right back. I think he gives us some good options. He can pass out from the back. He's got pace. It's almost like an auxiliary centre back, in that back line playing Romani, which I quite like. Stearman stays. Naby Sarr stays. I bring in Jason Luttweiler just for the same reasons. I would bring in Nico Vassen. I just think it's the right time. Although I genuinely don't know whether Luttweiler is ready for it. So I would leave that decision obviously to Clem. But my left back is going to be Ramoni Critchlow. And the reason why I've gone for Ramoni Critchlow is because of, as I desperately go for my stats, is Critchlow, despite only playing 4 games, is the second highest rated defender for Huddersfield Town for clearances. And against a team that constantly pumps balls into the box, Naby Sarr is obviously the top defender for clearances with 4.8. Critchlow averages 4.8 a game clearances. Stearman's the next with 3.5. And then after Schindler, in 5th is Romani Edmonds-Green. So that's why I've gone for that narrow back 4. In front of them is where you need your energy. So I'm dropping Dwayne Holmes back to play in the midfield 3 with Lewis O'Brien, because I just think you need that discipline and energy against the likes of Will Volks, etc., who I think is a great player. And between them, Alex Vallejo, you need someone who with a little bit of quality on the ball, and Vallejo's got that. So that midfield 3, a lot of energy, a little bit of poise in there. And then the front 3 is an interesting one. I think Aaron Rowe's little renaissance has been great. I've really enjoyed that. But I'm going to go with a front 3 of Mbenza, Campbell, and Pippa. So my team's Luttweiler, Romani Edmonds-Green, Stearman, Sarr, Critchlow at left back. And just to point out, Critchlow has played left back quite a lot before. When he went on loan to Hartlepool and Welling, he played left back. He grew up as a left back. So O'Brien and Holmes in midfield for the energy and the pressing and the tracking, and Vallejo just to play on the ball, and then the front 3 of Campbell and Mbenza and Pippa.
That's a good shout, mate. I like that. Luttweiler as well. I don't know if this helps, but Joey Barton, when he was at Fleetwood, wanted him to stay and said he would pay his wages personally out of his own pocket. Yeah. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, that's a bit of a wild card from me, is that one, because I've not seen him play. To be honest, you just think 31-year-old goalkeeper been described as solid, someone who talks quite a lot, and I just think maybe that's what we just need for a couple of weeks.
I agree. Quinny, what about yourself? You are a manager, but you are manager of Huddersfield Town for this. Who are you going
for? I think it's a tough one. I don't think Sanogo's, by the sounds of it, ain't going to be ready, is it? So I think they're just drip feeding him in. I mean, if he was ready, I'd be tempted to throw him in for everything we talked about earlier. I don't think. Well, if he was still at 15 minutes apparently, wasn't it, Tuesday? So I can't see him being ready for a start this Saturday. If he was, then I would have looked to put him in just for the things we've talked about. At the back, I think I'd go for Pippa at right back. I think we need him back in his normal position, in the position that he's comfortable with. I think he's done okay at left back, but it's absolutely blatantly obvious that every time he gets the ball, he's trying to work it onto his right side, and I think that causes a problem in itself. So I'd go Pippa, Stearman, Sarr. I'd give Rowe a whirl at left back. I think he came on against Middlesbrough. I think it was, wasn't it, at half time, and thought he made a massive impact there. Again, I think it looked natural. Round pegs, round holes, or square pegs, square holes, whatever the saying is. And then I think we need a performance from O'Brien. I think he's been quiet recently. I think we need a performance from him, but I'd keep him in for his energy. He makes plenty of good forward runs, plenty of like corner box entry runs as well that I think are really dangerous when we're effective. So I'd have Vallejo at the base, Bakuna, O'Brien, top 3 would be Mbenza, Campbell, and Holmes. That's what I'd go for. But yeah, I think it's another one. We talked about it before. The Swansea game need big performances from people. I think that'll be the message. But I know one thing I did want to say was I know sort of deflating as the performance may have seen, and when we get his nose and head on Tuesday night, I think that point could be massive for us against Birmingham. I think if we'd have lost that game, I think it'd have been an even worse feeling around the place at the moment. But we got a point, and the point could be really, really important for us, and it gives you a platform you know, as maybe as lacklustre as the performance was, it gives us something to build on. So I'm being positive again, Brady. Can you feel it coming out again?
I can feel it, mate. Let's go. 4-0. 4-0 Tom. No, you make a good point, though. I mean, especially in the Birmingham game when we played them earlier in the season, we equalised with 5 minutes to go and we lost the game. So, you know, yeah. I agree. It could be.
If you can't win a game, don't lose it. That's the saying, isn't it? So
no, definitely.
It could be an important point for us.
We've lost enough this year so far, so maybe let's stop that. I've gone for a 3-5-2. Again, I think when Town have played well, particularly at home, that's the formation we've been playing recently. I have kept Schofield in. I was debating with Luttweiler, but I think again, I think what would be key really for Schofield. We seem to be talking about goalkeepers a lot recently, but Swansea, he made a mistake, arguably, and then we still won the game, and I thought that would help. And I'm not saying we're going to win the game here, but I think if we win a game where he makes another mistake and it doesn't really matter, I wonder if that might help him and ease him a bit. So I've kept Schofield in. My 3 is same again: Edmonds, Green, Stearman, and Sarr. I think Sarr has been all right recently. He was very hit and miss, but I think he's kind of been okay. Obviously, the goal against Preston, but again, I don't think that's all on him. It was going in anyway. I've moved Pippa back to right wing back because again, I agree with you. You know, should be on left, and it's kind of like I'm of the attitude. Again, I'm not a manager, but I think we've got a bit of an injury crisis, and we should play our best players in their preferred position and then fill the gaps in everywhere else. The one I was debating about was O'Brien, about dropping him, but I think particularly against Cardiff, O'Brien hasn't been great, but he can nip and win the ball occasionally, and like you say, his energy will need. I've got Vallejo, I think, and I've also got Holmes in there. I think it's no surprise that Holmes' best performance was when he was further back in central midfield against Swansea. I've got Rowe as well. Again, think what you say. Think he deserves a start, played well. And I've got my 2. So I've actually dropped in Benza, which I was debating about, because I think I don't know if he's still fully fit. He said he was playing with pain, and I think it's someone we could build on if things aren't going well. So I've kept Campbell. I agree with you, Quinny. I wanted to start Sonogo, but he's obviously not ready according to Carlos. So I've gone for Kieran Phillips to partner Campbell because, again, this, you know, I know we've talked about young players and if they're ready or not, but I do think he's looked sharp when he's played, and he's not had a start yet. And I think if he is with Campbell, maybe he can offer something. And, you know, he's been unlucky not to score yet, to be honest, for me. I think that Middlesbrough game, he should have had a goal, really. And I wonder if just playing him a little bit unexpected, if that might help, and maybe would get a goal. But we will see. So, yeah. So we've all got interesting lineups, I think. So we will see. But we'll go on to the score predictions for the game and how you see the game going. I'll come to you, Matt. What have you gone for?
2-0 Cardiff.
How come? Do you want to elaborate on that?
I just think they're too strong and they'll steamroller over us a little bit. I can see areas where we can hurt them. I think patience will need to be in abundance if we do. I think that's the key thing, is to probe in the right areas at the right time. But I just look at the run they're on and the run we're on, and the style. It's all about styles. When I look at Swansea's system really played into our hands a little bit. You know, they had a diamond in midfield, and the way we played with one centre-back stepping into midfield allowed us to outnumber them in there. I look at the system that Cardiff have got, and the 3 centre-backs, Morrison and Flint, you know, you need a step ladder to challenge them in the air. You know, they're excellent and strong, and I think Bennett might be injured for them, the left wing-back, which could be interesting, because he's a decent player as well. But I just think it's the sheer brute force. Whereas Swansea, it was passing side versus a passing side, and we're obviously trying a bit more shithousey, if you like. You know, we're trying it. We're probably not going to be very good at it, but Cardiff are the masters of it, if you like. And I think it'll be. I think we'll start well, but I think again we tend to start quite well and then run out of ideas a little bit, and it's a case of just sticking with it. But I just see the strength. You know, the size and the strength just being a little bit too much, but I don't think we'll do terribly. I just think it'll be a bit too much.
Yeah, I think you might be right, mate. Quinny, do you agree with Matt, or are you being Mr. Positive?
You know me, eternal optimism.
Love it.
I can never bring myself to bet against Town, even if it's. But yeah, I just think I think it's going to be a really, really. We said this before the Swansea game, though, didn't we? So God knows what's going to happen. I think it's going to be, very, very difficult game for us. But I'm gonna again be optimistic, but I'm not going to be stupid with it. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think we can create opportunities. I think we will concede. I think we will concede at some point in the game. It's just where we're at. But I do think we can create chances and we can create opportunities. And I've said it a few times. We were waiting for that game where we've created a lot of chances and not scored. And then you look at the Swansea game. We had that magic 3 minutes, and let's hope we can have another game where, like you said with Kieran Phillips, how he's not scored so far when he's come on is beyond belief, really, with some of the runs he's made, and not clear-cut chances, but just that's what was the game where he hit the bottom of the post, and you think, how
Middlesbrough,
Middlesbrough won it away. I'm hoping for another day where we can get something. And I'd take a draw. I think we all would, wouldn't we? We'd take a point right now. I think that'd be a good. That's 2 games then where we're out without defeat, and it starts just building that momentum slowly. But I agree with Matt. It's going to be a tall order, but I'm going to go for 2-2.
I like it, mate. You are we need optimism at a time like this, so that's good. I have not been optimistic. I know you say you never back Town to lose, but I will. You made a good point, Matt, about how Swansea kind of played into our hands. I think we really play into Cardiff's hands, given how they want to play. We're terrible at set pieces. I mean, like that Birmingham goal was I don't think it was even Championship defending. It was really bad, especially after we'd taken the league and we looked nervous. I think you're right though, Matt. I think I could see us starting quite well. Again, it's on Sky, it's on Friday night. Like, could even see us taking the lead. But I just think Cardiff have too much for us, and it's one of them where it's form over fixtures, to be honest. In some respects. So I've gone for 3-1 Cardiff, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if all their goals come from set pieces. But we've got a big game after that against QPR, who were in a good run of form themselves. But I think this is going to be a defeat, unfortunately.
They've gone 10 games without defeat, haven't they? So that's going to end at some point. And that's a lot of games without a defeat. So this could be the one, mate. You've got to have that belief. A good run of form means that it's going to come to an end soon. So this could be the game where it comes to an end.
Law of averages,
There you go. It's going to come to an end, and that's a lot of games without a defeat in the Championship. So they're due a defeat very, very soon. Let's hope it's Friday.
I like it, mate. I mean, to be fair, this league has been quite cyclical in terms of people going on runs, people going on winning and losing runs. So anyway, let's all hope we're as optimistic as Quinny. We will see. But lads, thanks for coming on, and thanks to everyone for listening. We will be back with a preview for QPR next week, and let's hope for a win. Take care.
Oh, what a night, late in May in 2017. Schindler scored, it was a effing dream. What a feeling, what a night. Oh, what a night. Wagner singing, we are Premier League. The greatest sight St. George's Square did see. What an evening, what a night. Oh, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh, what a night, lost so safe and mesmerizing me. Low charge and flattened all Chelsea. Stamford Bridge, oh what a night. Whoa, I got a funny feeling when he walks and a fence, and then the commentator yelled he takes that chance. Oh,